It's okay because I called Slambo out, so you know
Oh,
it's all
you
good.
hardcore called Slambo out.
Good times. All right, that is good. I can flip that back over to our start screen. All right, let me send out messages. Okay. Go retweet from the places. Retweet, retweet, retweet. Okay. As my Hanzo goes off on my phone.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, there's that one. Does my mic
That one
really
was
pick that
me.
up? Wow. I mean, it's just gonna keep sounding. So, people that are handing out can deal with it in the pre-show. All right, let's see. But yeah, I'm hyped for that next match tonight. Like, there is so much on the line in that series with them only being a game apart.
Oh yeah, it's
Like that. I mean, just right now, that could determine that division.
like there was a post on Reddit that this match is worth more money,
Mm-hmm.
really, than any of the other matches that they play.
Right.
Which, when you break it down, makes kind of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just having that one game buffer is huge. Or two games in that case, if you are Soul, if you take home the win. All right. All right. Got that. Switch this back over. Let me mute my phone so we don't have any taquito grills.
You don't want taquito grills in the
No,
middle of the show?
not in this case. All right. All right. It should be good. And obviously, the earlier we get started, the better, because of
Mm-hmm.
still
The way
reasons.
we normally are.
Well, yeah, that too. Just the way that things have been, being two hours 15, depending on the week. So
I
yeah,
got
that's
my picks in this week too.
you did. All right. Well, we'll see whether or not that changes where Spider lands.
If I finish above Spider, he's never gonna hear the end of it.
No, I mean he already doesn't hear the end of it, so you being in there too would only further pile onto the
Further
shame.
harassment.
Right. All right. Let's go ahead and do a show.
All right, fantastic.
All right. Let me hit the sounder and we'll get going.
Sweet.
Start in now.
You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Totemly Drunk, and tonight on episode 111, we get hyped for Overwatch's 2-year anniversary event. The Supreme Court opens up the door for esports betting in the United States. Hanzo 2.0 overtakes the DPS meta. Overwatch League news, and so much more. But before we get into the news and introduce you to my co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us here in our Twitch chat tonight on our new night, which is Wednesday nights, since we did kind of shuffle our shows around a little bit. So Heroes Never Die is now on Wednesdays, and then the Batcap will normally be on Thursdays moving forward, except we do have some scheduling snafus within the next couple of weeks, which I will talk about later, so stay tuned for that. But I do want to also thank our repeat listeners out there. And joining me tonight, yet again, to help break everything down is my co-host. You know, one of the few co-hosts I have not had to meme into oblivion. That is Edinar. Edinar, how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm glad I'm the only one that hasn't been memed yet. I fully expect it. Once my first week of pick'ems come in, I fully expect to take over for Spider in hashtag Forever Fourth. So I fully expect to take that role over. But until that happens, I'm totally good with being the non-meme co-host. But no, it's really good. Like you said, we're on our new night, which I'm very excited for. Today is a special day. It's actually my birthday.
Woo! Happy birthday!
So it's a birthday podcast. Let's just go with that. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good week. Got some placement matches done. I haven't finished all my placements on both accounts, but I think I have like 4 done on each account, and I'm 3-1 on both. So overall, it's going pretty good. Not playing any Orisa, that's for sure. Playing a lot of Reinhardt and a lot of Moira. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. How's your week been? We haven't really talked much since the last episode.
Well, I mean, we kind of hung out on, was it Friday? Or Saturday? It was one of the 2 nights, because, we did start doing host streams on our channel. And, I kind of took over on Friday because, Spider, being a person who's like, yeah, I'll take Friday, couldn't show up to the first scheduled host stream, so I kind of took over for that. But then you joined me on Saturday, as did Spider, so we did, a lot of arcade shenanigans. We did pretty damn well in there, but outside of that, like, I haven't really been spending too much time in comp, and part of that is just due to the fact that, I don't know if you've heard, but Contenders has been wrapping up across all of the regions, and that took up basically my entire week. So we had, the NA finals and semifinals, we had EU, we had China, we had Korea, and it was just all of that happening, compacted into the weekend, and of course, I'm usually busy on the weekend, so I had to kind of, try to spread it out. And of course, tonight we have the start of stage 4. I'm not going to say season 4.
I'm calling shenanigans.
It's okay, I'll just call you out every time you mispronounce Brigitte.
I will never pronounce that right. I'm not even worried about that.
But, obviously a ton of stuff going on inside the game and out, and it's been a pretty busy news week across the board for Overwatch and Overwatch esports, so let's go ahead and jump into the news. So, as I mentioned earlier, we do have the upcoming anniversary event that will begin on May 22nd, and, they confirmed this, on the Twitter. They released a kind of like a skin preview that showed a Junkrat pirate skin, which is pretty amazing, and this anniversary event is going to be amazing. They compacted so much stuff into this event. So, this event will be May 22nd through June 11th. We'll get 11 new skins. That will be 3 epics and 8 legendary skins. We're going to get some new dance emotes for Doomfist, Moira, and Brigitte. And what's cool about this one is we are actually going to be able to get cosmetics from previous events, not only in the anniversary loot boxes, but also, purchasable via currency. Now, that being said, obviously when it came to other events for, the last year's event, things would be at a discount rate. So there was a list posted on the forums about, okay, what is going to be discounted in regards to the currency and what is not. So if you're looking at the stuff that's going to be cheaper, that would be the 1000 currency for like the legendary skins. That would include the summer games from 2016, Halloween 2016, Winter Wonderland 2016, and then the Lunar New Year from last year, Archives Uprising from last year, and the anniversary event from last year. So in regards to the 3000 cost, that would include basically all of this current year's events, and last year's Summer Games, Halloween, and Winter Wonderland. Now, that being said, guys, as I mentioned, all of that stuff is going to be compacted into the loot boxes for this event. And just by logging in, you will get a legendary anniversary loot box, which will guarantee at least one legendary ranked item. And then if you purchase the big bundle of loot boxes, that is that 50 loot box bundle, you'll also unlock an additional legendary loot box. You can get up to 2. Now, on top of that, kind of going back to events past, they're also bringing back seasonal brawls from some of these past events. So they're going to be rotating that in to the arcade. You'll get some new stuff basically every single day. So, we could see Lucia Ball, we could see Junkin Science Revenge, we could see Maze Snowball Offensive, which I'm sure everyone is looking forward to playing again.
I won't play arcade that day.
No, that'll be the one that you skip on, but, I'm excited. I love playing Lucy Ball. Junkin Science Revenge is still by far my favorite. I'm looking forward to seeing that pop back in. But there's another thing that, this one is just, this one gets me going, because I love this mode. This is my go-to mode in arcade, and that is Deathmatch, right? So, we're getting a new map, that is Petra. And what's cool about this map is, well, at least according to the developer update from our dad and savior, Papa Jeffy Cap, praise him. He says that this map in particular will have some specific gameplay elements. So, for one, there's going to be a mega health pack in the center of Petra, and there are going to be areas that have like increased danger, basically, as the map goes on. And then different parts of the map will cater towards different heroes. So you'll have areas that are great for long-range heroes. You'll have areas that are pretty good for the short-range heroes. So I'm really curious to see how that works out. So, and on top of that, with Deathmatch, we're also getting competitive Deathmatch, and that will be played on Chateau and the new Deathmatch map. So, whew, that's a lot of stuff. And then, also with the dev update, we also know that we reached 40 million players, so, Overwatch continues to grow, but, man, talk about the amount of content just from this event alone. Maybe if you're missing some of those skins in, events past, this is your best chance to get that, whether it's by unlocking them via currency, or just getting them in a loot box by chance, but definitely a lot to like within the second anniversary event, and I can't wait to play some more Deathmatch.
Yeah, alright, so I had to watch the developer update 2.5 times to really kind of be like, okay, I think I got everything that Papa Jeffy Cap was talking about. I love it. I'm gonna buy the 50 loot box bundle, specifically because you're gonna have a chance to get all of the stuff you haven't gotten in the past. Now, for me personally, I took like a 2-month hiatus from Overwatch last year over the anniversary. So I have no dance emotes. I have none of that stuff. So I'm hoping to get a lot of that. I have about, on both accounts, I have about 10,000 currency saved up on each. So I'm going to go to town on both of those. On skins, emotes, stuff like that. So the fact that you can go back and buy old skins is probably the biggest thing to me. because it especially allows people who are new to the game to go get those skins that they sometimes see and really want but can't get for however many months. So this is great. The competitive deathmatch, I'm already calling it now. A Friday or Saturday nights when you guys stream and we're playing competitive deathmatch. Like, like we're gonna be playing some competitive deathmatch while it's going on. In the Petra map, it sounds interesting too. Like the battle for the full health pack in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I heard that, I'm like, so basically a Winston could just jump in, bubble, steal the health pack, and get away. That's how I see it. But it's going to be interesting to see the battle for that. I like it a little bit better than the other deathmatch map. I always forget the name of it, the Chateau.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be great. Lucio Ball, I suck at Rocket League. I'm god awful at Rocket League.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucio Ball, not the biggest target market for me. I enjoy it. I'm just not good at it at all. But Junkenstein's Revenge is hands down my favorite event. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, having a lot of fun with that. And like you said, every day they're going to be rotating out what special one there is. I mean, as long as it's not always Maze one. And,
Either one? Either one.
Yeah, the Maze freeze ball one, and then the Winston Yeti one.
Yeah, the Yeti hunt.
I hate both of those. I'll do Mystery Heroes instead. But yeah, I mean, they knocked it out of the park with this anniversary. Like, just straight up knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they've done, everything Jeff talked about was great. I can't wait. We saw 2 new legendary skins today, even from Tracer and Soldier. That looked pretty cool. But I'm most excited. Like I said, I have no dance emotes. I want dance emotes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be buying one for every single character. So they knocked it out of the park with this.
Right. And River Hippo, I don't think it's actually every single event brawl. I think it's just select ones, if I'm not mistaken. So you're not going to be seeing, like, I don't even know the amount of how many brawls that would be, but I'm pretty sure it's just selected ones in particular, so we'll have to pay attention to that. But with that, something else that they're doing along with the anniversary event is during said event, we are also going to be getting another free weekend. So this is going to be coming up on May 25th. That will end on May 28th. And, just like all other free weekends for Overwatch, that will include all of the heroes. You'll have all of the maps available if you're a free weekend player. You'll have the option to play quick play, arcade, and custom games included in that. Again, with the only exception being competitive play. Now, as per usual, any sort of progress that you make during the free weekend will be transferred over should you, decide to purchase a game, which, you should, and you'll have more ways of obtaining Overwatch, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. But, the important things to know is if you are a PlayStation 4 player, you do not need a PlayStation Plus account in order to play during a free weekend. Now, if you are an Xbox player, you don't get that luxury. You actually need an Xbox Live Gold membership in order to play during a free weekend if you are on Xbox. So, there is that. So, all you PlayStation fanboys are in better hands in this case. Not that either one is really that expensive. I mean, let's be real. But, you guys can go ahead, create another free Smurf account on console. Or, recommend it to a friend if they still haven't been one of the 40 million players to play Overwatch. But really, when it comes to these free weekends, are you still finding yourself recommending the game to people that still haven't had an opportunity to play Overwatch? Or is this just something that's, maybe not necessarily a big thing for us in general?
Well, I mean, I talk about this game nonstop with people. So if they don't get the hint that they should buy it before this free weekend, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I see these free weekends as as basically Smurf weekends. They're still fun to play. It's just whenever you see a low level account, it's 75% chance it's a Smurf. Because everyone's kind of prepared. Usually after the weekend of a free weekend, the game's half off. So people will start a Smurf account during the free weekend, buy the game for half off, and then they have an account. I mean, personally, I plan on doing that for my fourth account. I fully plan on doing that. But I mean, that's what you see, and that's perfectly fine. It's just you have to go in kind of knowing that. You have to go in knowing you're like, oh, I'm matched with 4 level 5s. Well, 3 of those level 5s are probably level 200s, and some are probably grandmasters, platinum, diamonds. It's just how it goes in the game. You're finding less and less actual new people to the game when you do this, but the entire community still loves having these free weekends because they get that they all start thinking about doing those Smurf accounts. And when you do a Smurf account and then you buy that account, honestly, Blizzard doesn't really care if it's a new account, like a new person, or a Smurf account. They're still getting money. Like it's not like, okay, well, this Smurf account's not going to buy the next DLC. We don't have DLC. So if you buy the base game, buying a Smurf account to them is the same as a new person starting the game because they're not paying for anything extra. So, I mean, I think that's part of the reason Blizzard does these things is, yes, they get a few new people who've never played the game, but it also gives people a chance to buy Smurf accounts and kind of reset their SR. And that's why the majority of people will do it. That's one of the reasons I'll do it. So I'm looking forward to it. It will be fun. It's a holiday weekend as well. So I think that's Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
So it's a 3-day weekend for a lot of people. All in good fun. Smurf accounts galore. Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, what I will say about Smurf accounts is I am someone that does own 4 accounts. Now, when I did placements on all of my accounts in the same season, the SR differential between my 4 accounts was all within like 80 SR. So, take that for what it is. Like, I placed where I probably should have been on all the accounts, so it's not like I'm seeing like a drastic difference between the two. But, you mentioned about, them buying the base account, basically, or the base edition of the game. Well, if you are one of those newer players and you want, a little bit extra, they are coming out with another edition of Overwatch, which they have dubbed the Legendary Edition. So, this is going to be launching on May 22nd. That will be part of like a digital package. I'm sure they're going to do... Well, I don't know if they're going to do like a box version. They might. But there's no like price point set for the Legendary Edition. But what you will get is a total of 15 Legendary skins. You'll get epic skins, some of the Origin skins with the purchase of this. And, this is kind of reminiscent to what we saw last year, because with last year's anniversary event, we got the Game of the Year edition of Overwatch, which was like $60 at the time. This was before, we saw like the half-off deals, basically, for the digital version of the game. And that one included like loot boxes as well as some of the Origin skins. So, I don't know if they're going to go like the loot box bundle route again with this one. I don't think so, just because, you're kind of getting more on the skin side of things, but... I'm expecting it to probably cost about the same as what it was last year, but, it's just a way of you guys to, maybe get a little bit more love for your Smurf account, or if you are a new player, you have a little bit more incentive in regards to rewards, so take that for what it is. But moving on, guys, there's really not much to cover with that one. We do have something big that we do need to talk about, because it does kind of open up the doors quite a bit in regards to esports. And, you and I definitely want to cover this, because it is kind of important, not only, right now, I wouldn't say it has, like, the biggest impact in regards to, in-game stuff for Overwatch, but it does impact a lot of other big esports titles, and that is that the United States Supreme Court has struck down a 1992 federal law that prohibited sports gambling, and that one went with a 6-3 ruling. Now, Basically, what that means is this ruling is going to open up the door to legal sports betting in any state that chooses to do so. And because of that, that is going to have some major implications when it comes to esports because, esports and sports are pretty much seen as hand in hand at this point now, especially with the introduction of more professional leagues and things like that. Now, what's important to note is there was a tweet sent out from the ESG law founder Bryce Blum, and he talked about how much money was on the line in regards to esports wagers last year. And I was shocked when I saw this number. He said it was around $5 billion wagered on esports last year, so expect that number to skyrocket. Now, what exactly is this going to mean for, the esports industry? Well, for one, we could see the return of skin betting. That was very popular with Counter-Strike Go. Same with Dota 2. Those are probably going to be the two biggest benefactors overall. But, what do you think this is going to mean when it comes to Overwatch and more so, the Overwatch League?
Okay, so if you've listened to the show, you've probably realized I love Vegas and I love gambling. Like, gambling is a big thing for me. Like, when I first reading about this, the first thing that came to mind is, so I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, and you might not be told, but when you're in Vegas, you actually don't have to be in a casino to bet on sports.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do is, like MGM and some of the other casinos, they have apps on your phone, and you hook up your card, and you can place bets on your phone. Now, what they do in Vegas is they use the location to determine if you're actually in Vegas to place the bet. Now, the reason that this is important is once this becomes legal, because yes, it's not legal in every single state, but don't be fooled, it will be, because the amount of money a state will earn is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this law changing alone is gonna save states like California and Illinois from bankruptcy. Really, it is. The amount of money that they're going to generate from this is insane. So every state is going to pass this by probably 2020, 2021. Now, imagine like you're sitting at home, you're watching the Overwatch League, and you want to be like, I want to throw $20 on Soul Dynasty to win tonight, or so on and so forth. All you have to do is go on your phone then and be like, oh, doop, 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 bet $20. That's all you have to do to gamble on this. The convenience factor is going to be off the charts with betting on esports because there's so much esports. Like, there's more esports to bet on than any other sport out there because there's so many esports. Like you said, there's League of Legends, CSGO, Overwatch. Like, there's probably 10 matches, professional matches a night across the major esports that you could gamble on, and that's just the major sports.
Right, and that's not including Call of Duty has their league. We also have the NBA 2K League, which just recently started up as well.
Yeah, Heroes of the Dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's going to open up the doors. Now, will it bring in some, like, the big concern is the match fixing and stuff like that. I personally do not think it's going to be a problem. The reason I say that is because it will be so regulated. Now, when like states in like the state that really won this was New Jersey. New Jersey kind of sued the government about this, and so now it's legal to gamble in New Jersey. Well, New Jersey even has a law: you're not allowed to gamble on amateur sports. Like, so you're in New Jersey, you're not allowed to bet on college sports.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the general consensus is all states are going to pass laws fairly similar to that. Like, you're not going to be able to bet on amateur sports. And I bet you certain leagues like Contenders will fall under that umbrella. Okay. So you're not going to really get the match fixing from that point of view. Because in the Overwatch League, you're not going to get match throwers. They're making too good of money. They're too public to even risk that. Like, you have just as much of a chance of having a thrower in Overwatch League now than you will when gambling becomes prevalent. Even when gambling becomes prevalent, you might actually catch more if that's out there, because if that's out there, you're going to start seeing a swing in the gambling towards, in the betting towards one person that may not be. So it might send up red flags. So, like, for instance, like tonight, Gladiators versus the Shock. If all of a sudden everyone's putting massive money on the Shock to win, you know something's up. Like, it's not like all of a sudden, oh, you know, like the Shock are actually the best team in Overwatch.
Yeah, they got crusty, so they're going to go 10-0 and make the season playoffs.
Exactly. Like, you're going to have teams that people that bet the underdog because it pays out more.
Shanghai.
But it's not going to swing the numbers.
Right.
Once you see a swing in the numbers, that's when you can see something's up, which you wouldn't have been able to see before. So I actually personally think this is good for sports in general. If you look at countries over in Europe, like London, France, they have legalized gambling on all this stuff. And they use it to kind of regulate things as well. Like, I think a couple of years ago, they said they actually caught a match-fixing scandal in a soccer tournament because of the gambling. So I think this is great. Also horrible at the same time, because I don't know if I trust myself fully. But I mean, it's one of those things where I'm getting into gambling jargon now, but like, I could come into a week of Overwatch League and do a 5-team parlay. Like, and a 5-team parlay, for those who don't know, I'm just betting 5 teams to win for really good odds, but you're just betting 5 teams to win. I'll put $40 down on 5 teams to win. If those 5 teams win, I win. If they don't, I lose, but you're not betting the farm. But it makes the games more interesting. Like, it's kind of like fantasy football or something like that. Like, fantasy football is probably the best thing that's ever happened to the NFL, because people started caring about more than just their own individual team.
Right, and they're going out of market.
They're going out of market. And this is what could happen with a lot of people in esports. Like, they could start betting on other teams, and then you start generating more interest. So I love this. I think it was about time. I think it will be heavily regulated. But every state will do this within the next 2 years. Plain and simple. And I look forward to it because I will be gambling on it. I will. Like, plain and simple. I will be gambling on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same case for me, because based on my correct winner accuracy in our pick'ems, yeah, I'm definitely going to be in. But I want to kind of, like, go back a little bit, because, you know, you did bring up, you know, teams to throw in, or, you know, just bet on your team to lose, and, you know, you taking the punch, you know. So very recently, in Contenders for South America, there was a story on this where, so Contenders South America was, you know, it was recorded earlier, and then it was like a tape delay, essentially. So, like, they would play on X day, and then it would be released and broadcast on Twitch, you know, on date Y, whatever it was. So there was like a 4 or 5 day differential, something like that. And there were betting websites out there that were allowing, you know, them to bet on those matches that had already taken place. So they were worried that that would mess up the lines and that people would be putting money already having known the results. But regardless of that, you know, there was still an even spread on both sides of the fence, so it really was a non-factor. So I don't imagine it's going to be an issue when it comes to esports betting, when these states really start to open up the doors to it. So I'm not too worried about that, but yes, I will absolutely be on board when it comes to this, when it does open up, and I hope it does. I mean, my investment is going to be here one way or another. Obviously, I still watch every single Overwatch League game. Not everyone is going to be like that, but, it will open up the door for people to maybe have more sparked interest in checking out what the Shanghai Dragons are doing and if they can pull off that first win. And, tonight, there's a lot of investment in the Shanghai Dragons because, they do face the Dallas Fuel, which is a pretty interesting series. And I wonder, hold on. I want to pull up High Noon real quick. And I want to look at the stat breakdown in regards to the pick'ems tonight. So,
I mean, when I looked, it was pretty heavily in.
Yes, okay, so
favor.
there aren't as many picks as there normally are, so I'll take that for what it's worth. So, out of 742 picks right now for tonight's game, Dallas is at 37% of the votes, and then Shanghai Dragons have 63%, so it's interesting. Normally Shanghai is nowhere near that. Normally they're in that 2 to 8% pick rate in most situations, but against Dallas, given all their struggles, it really makes you wonder what sort of betting odds there would be in regards to this particular match. But moving on, guys, we did get a little bit of a tease earlier today on the Overwatch Twitter, and as you open up, Pop, or
Yes.
a beer, whatever, I don't know what it is.
Beer.
I'm not looking over yet, but Blizzard announced that, they really teased that they are doing a partnership with Hasbro, and what they're doing is they're going to release a line of Overwatch-themed Nerf guns. So the Overwatch Nerf guns are going to be part of the Nerf Rival series. And for those that don't play with Nerf guns, or if you have kids and you know what this is, basically they shoot these tiny yellow balls that are made of foam. Some of them can shoot pretty damn fast. My nephew has a Nerf wall, and all of his Nerf guns are on display. And we have Nerf fights in the park. This is right up his alley, because he loves Overwatch, and he loves Nerf. But, the thing is, it's right now we don't really have that many details readily available in regards to this line. We do know that this will be launching sometime in 2019, so that's next year. So, I don't know if it's going to be, replica weapons in regards to Overwatch, or if it's just going to be Overwatch branded. But in the past, we have seen fans kind of create their own Overwatch-themed Nerf weapons, based on, some of the Nerf lines out there. But, I have to say, I'm really curious to see what direction they're going to take with this, and I know my nephew is going to collect them all. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but for the longest time, we see, figure lines and stuff coming out in regards to the Overwatch merchandise, so I'm excited to see them kind of branch out a little bit more and move on to some other areas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that it's replica, because I want a Junkrat grenade launcher Nerf. I mean, there's a lot of characters you won't be able to actually replica. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Symmetra. I mean, obviously Reinhardt, he just has a hammer. I don't know if a hammer would make a good Nerf gun, but I mean, you would be able to make a lot Tracer, Reaper, Widowmaker, Junkrat, and they're gonna make replicas. But I think they're also gonna sprinkle in some themed ones, maybe a Reinhardt themed Nerf gun, so you can get him into the game, or because a lot of the weapons in Overwatch aren't actually guns. So, but if they don't come out with a Junkrat grenade launcher, I'm gonna be disappointed.
I mean,
that's the one thing that I'm this is made for Nerf. So I love this. When I saw this, I'm oh, this is just something over the top that we all didn't know we wanted until they announced it.
Yeah, I know I had mentioned to this from Lack and Balls, okay, I'm in, and she's this is perfect. It's IRL PvP, and River Hippo says that they already make Nerf swords in our Twitch chat, so who knows, we could see maces and hammers in regards to the Overwatch line for this, but I'm really excited. I hope people buy these and just bring them to BlizzCon next year, we could just set up a room or just go outside.
Think of how if they actually make replicas, like all cosplayers are going to be like, thank God. I do not need to make a replica weapon. I just need to go out and spend $25 on a Nerf gun. Victory.
Right. Well, no, in Nerf, these are going to be pretty pricey. I mean, most of their stuff isn't that cheap overall. But that being said, count me in. I am definitely going to see what is on the line and probably purchase at least one of them. And honestly, like, more than likely, if they are doing the Junkrat one, 100%, that is the one I would buy. But I am still waiting on my Riptire backpack, Blizzard. You need to get on top of that. I don't know why they haven't done it. It's perfect. I mean, obviously it can't be too spiky, but like Junkrat's popularity is through the roof, so they need to let that happen. But moving on, guys, let's talk about stuff that the community is talking about pretty hotly lately. So, there's been a few things. Like, for instance, kind of going back to contenders, we were looking at the North American playoffs, and, Fusion University had their jerseys basically banned. Now, there's kind of a lot to the story. We've kind of heard different things, but basically the gist of it was Fusion University had the abbreviation for their team as FU, right? They eventually changed it on the Contenders website to FUN, so it's now fun, but they had to come out wearing black t-shirts instead of this, and members of the Fusion staff were pretty vocal about this over on Twitter. They were saying that it was hypocritical by Blizzard due to the fact that, McCree has, his BAMF, belt buckle, which pretty much everyone knows what that stands for. It's not as bad as the assumed FU abbreviation. Obviously, people can take it different ways, but whatever. But apparently, doing a little bit more digging, the original jersey design that Fusion University had was not approved. So the team had came back with a new design, which was the one that they tried to get on stage, right? So, according to Kirby, who is the Fusion head coach, they weren't accepted or rejected by Blizzard in regards to this new design that they had. And when they pressed on to, why they weren't told about this prior, apparently, like, the person that was going to be making the decision was just on vacation and wasn't there for the deadline, so I don't know quite what to make of this. Obviously, like, with everything that is going on, the Overwatch scene has been very cautious in regards to its approach to anything that could be considered offensive. And FU can kind of fall into line with that, but I don't agree with it. I think they should have been able to wear it, but, like, regardless, like, you need to be able to make a deadline, and you can't just be like, oh, well, our guy was on vacation, so that's not a legit reason behind them not being allowed to wear a jersey. Now, that being said, obviously, I am slightly biased, because I did win one of the jerseys recently. But regardless, like, this just made me, like, scratch my head. I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on? Because, like, initially it was just like, okay, it's banned because it says FU, and then that was the end of it, and then we start hearing, like, these other things. But I want to get your take on this. Like, do you find that abbreviation to be problematic, or is it just a non-issue for you?
It's a non-issue. All right, so think of it this way. There are colleges out there. There are two colleges, like Division I colleges, that use FU. Like Fordham University, FU. I've even seen universities, now it's small, like, oh God, something Christian kinship or whatever. It was FU Super. And that was their initials. And the university embraced it. Like the people from Fusion University said, you have a character in game that has BAMF on his belt buckle.
Right.
Like, and don't play this person was out on vacation,
right,
or whatever. We all know the real reason why you didn't want that on there. It's probably because your sponsors didn't want it. Like, when it boils down to it, your sponsors are like, I don't know if we want FU to show up with our logo. If they come out and say that, I think people would be more understanding. But they're kind of, going around the subject and like, be like, T-Mobile doesn't want it. Okay, I would have respected the hell out of that. But when they don't come out and say that, it's just like, well, then why will you not? Especially when you have an anagram like Banff in the game. So I don't like it. I mean, obviously, it has no meaning to me, really, in the long run whatsoever. It's just, I just want consistency. That's all I ask for, is consistency with all this. And, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because it would be an awesome jersey to get. Still hate you. And like, it would, it's one of those things where you have people rallying around a contenders team. You have people rallying around a AAA team. Mm-hmm. And this is part of their appeal. You can't ask for anything better than that. Like, you have a team that is not professional, isn't on the main stage, and people are still following it, and they want their apparel. The team is going to lose money on this. Like, Fusion University team is going to lose money because of that. That's a bigger issue to me than, them not telling us why they actually did it, even though we don't know. So, I don't know. I wish they'd just be truthful with us, but I understand it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. Sponsors don't want it. You have to go by with the sponsors because they're the bread and butter of the league.
Yeah, and it does kind of question, well, like, are they going to have to stop the production of, like, that design just because of, Blizzard's stance on it? Like, are they going to come back with a completely other design just before they, ship any of that stuff out? Because, they were one of the few teams that did have a design set and ready in regards to their jerseys. That being said, some of the other teams aren't offering them, but we did see them don in their new jerseys. But I know NRG Esports had their stuff for their contenders team. And I can't really think of any other ones outside of Fusion that were putting them online soon. I know they're up for pre-order, but, that could change. Who knows? But moving on, guys, we gotta talk about everyone's favorite hero in the game right now. No, not Brigitte. I am talking about Hanzo 2.0. So our good buddy Switch over at omnicmeta.com, shout out to Switch, he released the patch 1.23 analysis that focused on the Hanzo rework and its impact in competitive play. And, as it turns out, the new Hanzo is, pretty damn good. Who would have known? Everyone.
Weird.
Yeah, so let's just look at some of the stats here. So damage per minute, basically across the board for all heroes, has gone up 5% on average. And a lot of that is just due to the fact that, with Brigitte in the meta, we have a lot of armor, so those fights are lasting a lot longer and are drawn out, ergo, more damage being put out per minute. Those two kind of go hand in hand. Now, Hanzo's damage in particular has seen a massive jump. The damage increase was 23%. And if you compare that to the next highest hero, who saw a damage boost, that is Pharah at 9%. So, yeah, that's a bit of a difference there. But really, Hanzo's damage output right now is, pretty close to where Pharah is at currently, but right now Junkrat, I think, is still overall a little bit higher, but the three are pretty close. So, in a lot of cases right now, the meta in regards to the DPS, it's primarily Hanzo, just due to the burst potential, but it's mostly Pharah, Junkrat, and Hanzo. Now, that being said, we look at McCree, who has been kind of the person to deal with flank compositions outside of Brigitte, obviously. But Hanzo has basically been preventing a lot of these 200 HP heroes or less from seeing any play, basically. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, because there are some changes coming to Hanzo and specifically Storm Arrow. But right now, we're seeing Storm Arrow get in, about 33% more kills compared to what Scatter Arrow got, which isn't too much of a surprise, really, just because the burst potential of Scatter Arrow of Storm Arrow and how often you actually get it. But Hans is basically being ran over McCree in every single situation, just because he can deal with just about anything in the game right now, whether it's bursting shields or, clicking heads. But his popularity right now has never been higher. This is the most Hanzo we have seen since the game had launched, even going all the way back to closed beta. We never got to see as much Hanzo as what we are seeing right now. So, in regards to the overall tiers of playing competitive, at nearly every level, Hanzo is the most popular DPS hero. He's up 22% in regards to usage across all of the tiers of play, and his win rate on average has been improved by 6% across the different tiers. So, I can't say that I'm surprised. I know at my level in mid-plat, Hanzo is by far the most selected DPS. And I know, I was watching NBoss stream in, I think it's Master, and we saw Hanzo in basically every single game. It might not have always been every single on each side, just because he's not playing Hanzo, because he's not comfortable with it. So in that case, he ran the Junkrat, and in basically every situation where he did that, the team with the Hanzo won. So bear that in mind. But Hanzo right now is just causing absolute mayhem. And, I know we talked a lot about Brigitte being an issue and how she needed nerfs, but Hanzo, I told everyone, the difference that I've seen in my own play, and I was absolute crap tier with Hanzo prior, and now I feel a lot better with him. I can only imagine how people that have played him a bit and have made that adjustment are feeling with him, because, the carry potential with him right now with Storm Arrow is absolutely absurd, and, it does feel pretty mandatory in most situations.
Yeah, I even in Gold, Hanzo's the most picked DPS. Even I'm noticing it down where I'm at. And he's just... People have picked up, like I said last week, I was afraid that people would pick him and still consider him a sniper, and he's not. And I've been pleasantly surprised that people are not playing him as a sniper and playing him more towards that mid-range McCree type of character. And we'll get into the changes they made, because I do feel he was slightly overtuned, but not overpowered. Personally, I don't mind getting killed by a Hanzo now, because I know when I'm killed by a Hanzo, I know they were actually aiming for me and not the floor. Right. It feels better to be killed by a Hanzo now than killed by a Hanzo who actually wasn't even aiming at you on purpose.
It still feels terrible with Tracer, though.
Yeah. It's Tracer, though. Tracer hate, just a little. But he's in a good spot now. I think with these tweaks that we're going to talk about, he's going to get picked a little less, but he's still going to be one of the top 5 picked DPS. And by DPS, I include people like Widow, Junkrat, Soldier. I clump defense and offense together as DPS. So I think he'll be one of the top 5 picked out of all 11 or 12 of them that we have, and it's justifiably so. I get into a match and I see somebody pick a Hanzo now, I'm not immediately facepalm, and that's a good sign. Now, if I'm like, hey, let's go Hanzo, Widowmaker, Mei, I'm facepalming, but that's besides the point. Hanzo, the changes they made to Hanzo are good. I'm glad, and again, this is something we're going to talk about. I'm glad he's not in this patch of this version of the Overwatch League. But I think they're tuning him enough to make him a good hero, not overpowered.
Right, and just talking about some of those changes, guys, we did have the Overwatch developer Jeff Goodman on the Overwatch forums to discuss the changes that they're looking at in regards to Storm Arrows. And we're going to read what he put. He says, "We've been testing some nerfs internally and have decided to make a change for the upcoming patch. We're reducing the damage per arrow from 80 to 70, which not only drops them out of one-shot territory for 200 HP heroes with damage boost, but also drops them out of one-shot range of 150 heroes such as Tracer and Pilot D.Va. The ability will still be very strong overall, but this change should help mitigate the most frustrating element of fighting against it. We're looking at getting this change up onto the PTR soon. So, obviously we're seeing a ton of Mercy, a ton of Hanzo, and, as I said, the one-shot potential right now, considering how many shots you get, I mean, chances are, if you're a good Hanzo, you'll be able to hit 1 in 6 as a headshot. With Storm Arrows. I mean, that's just the name of the game.
You don't have to be that good to do that. You just have to, it's the odds. The odds are in your favor. You're going to get a headshot.
Right, and I know there's a bit of an adjustment just going from the old Hanzo to the new Hanzo, but it didn't take me that long. And I know, for me, it's going to be different just because I was absolutely atrocious with Hanzo 1.0. But, for me, the adjustment period was almost non-existent. So it's obviously not going to be the same for everyone, but, getting the critical hits on Hanzo right now, at least for me, was a lot easier. So we'll see whether or not this is going to, kind of even out Pharah and Junkrat and Hanzo. A little bit more than what we're currently seeing, given the Omnic meta post, but, that remains to be seen. But I feel like this is going to help bring him back, I'm not gonna say back down, it's more even out with some of the other most picked heroes. Now, that being said, initially when I was okay, this Storm Arrow is absolutely absurd. Originally, I was okay, maybe they should just remove headshot potential. Then, I didn't really feel that, so I feel like just bringing down the damage per arrow is the better route to go. Obviously, that will also be affecting the ult charge rate as well. Also, that's something else to keep in mind, but as you said, we're not seeing a new Hanzo in Stage 4 right now. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about that, which we'll definitely talk about as we go inside the league. Now, before we can get into that, though, let's talk some numbers. So, Overwatch League has seen a viewership drop in Stage 3 when you compare it to Stage 1 and Stage 2. The playoffs saw a 20% drop in regards to the average viewership. Despite the expansion of the playoffs to include that 4th team. So, we're getting an extra match compared to what we saw in Stage 1 and Stage 2. And our peak concurrent viewer, at least for Stage 3, hit 191,000. That came during a game between, no surprise, Boston Uprising and New York Excelsior. And then kind of going back, in Stage 1, we saw, 436,000. That was when a Dynasty took on the Fuel. I'm pretty sure that was open night, too, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, all eyes were on the Overwatch League on their debut. So, really, the question is, why was there such a huge decline in Stage 3? Was it due to the playoffs still being far off at this point? At least for, the end-of-season playoffs? Was it due to, there being another stage worth of dive compositions? And to that extent, though, do you think that right now, knowing what patch we're on, do you think that is going to hurt viewership in this stage as well?
I mean, okay, so I did a little, not digging, but analyzing the numbers. Viewership is down in the United States and Europe. Viewership is not down in China.
There's a reason for that.
There is a reason for that, but the viewership overall has gone up. When you look at the straight numbers, viewership has gone up. It's just not, if you take up the Chinese market, it's gone down. And I mean, like you said, there's reasons for that, but I don't think this is anything to worry about. I think I think these are going to become more normal numbers. I think the new hotness is wearing off a little bit. I mean, Fortnite, I think, is kind of dipping into that a little because now Fortnite's like the new hotness with Ninja and all that stuff. Like the Boston Red Sox pitcher got pulled from a start because of a Fortnite injury. Did you see that?
I did not. What?
That David Price, like it was carpal tunnel, and he said after it, like when they were questioning him about it, that he's giving up Fortnite because that exasperated his injury. I'm like, you are literally worth like $100 million. Do not let Fortnite destroy your career. Okay, so, but I mean, like, Fortnite has dipped into this. I think Stage 4 will probably dip a little more than what we saw in Stage 3 until we get to the playoffs. And then I think the playoffs, like, I think everyone kind of wants to see the grand finals and stuff like that. And then we'll see a huge uptick. And then we're going to start seeing a huge uptick in the start of Season 2 because we're going to get more teams, and then you'll be back from a break, and people will be like, this is the new hotness. And you're just going to go through these ups and downs throughout the whole thing. I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the reports, Blizzard shouldn't be worried about it, knowing from the reports on what a possible new franchise is going to cost people to get in. Like, and all the rumblings are how much Blizzard and the teams are making hand over fist compared to what they thought they were going to make for the first season. Like, everything is pointing up for them. The viewership is something I don't think they're that worried about, and neither should we.
Right, I think it's more of a reason to be concerned when we stop seeing, like, these partnerships coming in, really, when it comes to sponsors. I don't think we're ever going to be at a point where we're going to see absolutely consistent numbers throughout an entire season, just because there will be so much fluctuation. And, that's pretty much true for, sports in general as well. And obviously, like, the bigger matches will pull in bigger viewership, like Boston and New York, for instance, because obviously, that was a pretty big deal. And that was probably, I can't remember if that was for the finals or the regular, like, stage game. But regardless, like, in both cases, a lot was on the line, because you either had Boston's perfect record on the line, or you had, the title on the line. So there was big money out in the way, either way that you look at it. Now, talking about Season 2 of the Overwatch League, guys, this is kind of go back to something that we reported on a couple months ago, but there is a new ESPN report that is suggesting that the league is looking to add 4 to 6 new teams with slots priced up to $60 million each. Now, the price range that we're looking at could range anywhere from $30 million to $60 million, and that figure is pretty much the same as what we heard a couple months back at the start of the year. Mm-hmm. And cities are looking at being priced according to, like, population, number of Overwatch players in said region, among some other factors. But, looking at some of these markets, there is always that potential where we could have multiple potential buyers, so we could see, like, a bid war pop up, kind of like we did for, some contracts for some of the players. That can prevent, like, a double up in teams. So, like, let's talk about, like, the big markets. So, like, obviously, like, LA right now has 2 teams. Mm-hmm. New York is definitely an area that could have 2 teams. And I know, like, Boston is close, but I mean, they're rivals anyway.
Do not compare the two.
Right, I'm not saying, but I'm just talking about, like, when it comes to, like, those markets, those are the biggest ones in that general area. So, like, either one of those cities could have, like, the room to have 2 teams. Same with, like, Seoul. Seoul is obviously another big market as well. But, like, I don't know if that means they're just gonna, like, try to shy away from doubling up on certain, cities, but who knows? If there's enough money on the line, they're going to go with whatever route makes them the most money. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. But, what we have seen is, like, these esports organizations basically making bank. I mean, they have seen an increased valuation up to anywhere from $20 million to $60 million in less than a year. And that was, within the Overwatch League, that was in the NALCS, the League of Legends league. And, Nanzer again says, they're looking at switching to that home and away stadium format as soon as possible. But, some of the stadiums haven't been, like, lined up. I think some of the contracts were, like, for Season 3. So, we're probably still a little bit off in regards to that. But, we are expecting to get the Season 2 schedule up shortly after the Season 1 Grand Finals. But, we've in the past, we've talked about, like, the grand picture, right, for the Overwatch League, wanting to have up to 28 teams. Now we're looking anywhere from 46 coming in for Season 2. Like, how many teams do you expect to see in the Overwatch League next season?
I expect 4 new teams. I expect 1 more U.S. team, and I wholeheartedly think, biased aside, Chicago. It's the last big market in the United States they actually need to get into, and they need to get into Chicago to get that fan base, because it's a giant market that's just going untapped right now. They're gonna put probably, like, everyone wants to say, like, I think I heard Spider on Monday say it, like, Brazil. I think Brazil is a good idea. I don't think for Season 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics when it comes to Brazil, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we're gonna probably get 2 new teams in Europe. I think you're going to look at a Paris team and a Berlin, something like that. You're going to get probably 3 European teams, and then you're going to see 1 more in Asia. I don't think Russia is an option. Not from like, I don't think the fan base would love it. I'm thinking more of a logistical, like, okay, trying to work out people coming in and out of Russia, stuff like that. More political reasons. Right now, probably not the best bet. But, I mean, if there was a continent or country that could handle 2 teams, Korea could handle 2 teams quite easily. So I think you're going to see 1 more over in Asia, 2 in Europe, 1 in the US, before Stage 3 or Season 3. Dang it, Season 3, and then you're gonna start. Then you're gonna see another uptick in, like, another 4 to 6 teams, where you could start seeing teams like Brazil, another team or 2 in Europe, maybe another team or 2 in Asia, Russia, or even Australia. I think Australia is probably the longest shot out of all of them, just because of location-wise. Like, I mean, even from Australia to, South Korea is probably a pretty hefty flight. I don't know the exact distance, but I can't imagine that's like a hop on, hop off plane ride.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is 4: Chicago, Paris, another 1 in Europe, and then another 1 in Asia. And I think that's the perfect amount. I think that's the perfect amount for Season 2. They don't want to oversaturate it with new teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at chat. River Hippo says Paris, Toronto, Tokyo, Chicago, Seattle, and Gibraltar in regards to potential spots.
Canada.
Toronto does have a pretty big market. And, they also have Toronto Esports, who did amazing in Contenders. Granted, they did not win, spoilers, but they are a damn good team. And we did see...
Toronto could get 1, but...
But, like, if we're looking at EU, obviously, like, Paris is a big destination, as is Poland. Katowice has a huge esports scene, so I would be shocked if we don't get a team in Poland. But yeah, I think, like, eventually we will get a second Korea team. and, maybe even Japan. I don't know. Obviously, there's, so many different markets that they can kind of tap into, but I think, right now, we just need to get some more teams in Europe, and I feel like, regardless of how many teams they add, I feel like we'll get more on that side of the world than, the United States. That's just my take on it, but we'll see.
After Chicago.
Yeah, as long as Chicago is in these 4 to 6, we'll be good.
Yeah,
and then you can put the rest in Europe.
Yeah. I don't they could be like, hey, we're gonna introduce the Zimbabwe something or something. I don't care. You got a Chicago team. I'm good with that.
Yeah, we could live with that. But moving on, guys, we do have some coaching news, and this one is not going to come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, let's be real. It's been hinted at multiple times already. We've talked about it multiple times already, but we're going to talk about it again, because it's officially official now. You've seen him in the YouTube videos on the Houston Outlaws YouTube channel, which is Focus for their, weekly series. We also saw it in his bid for the United States World Cup head coach. That is right, guys. We have Kai Kai joining the Houston Outlaws as the team's assistant coach. Now, as we talked about in the past, Kai Kai had worked with a lot of members of this roster in last year's World Cup. So that includes Jake, Cool Matt, Fact Fiction, and Raucus. And he was released from the Dallas Fuel in mid-April amongst a number of dumpster fire reasons. Obviously at that time, and still, to this point, Dallas is kind of... You don't know where the shit is going to land at this point, but there is some hope. There's a little bit of hope on something we'll talk about later, based on who they will have at the helm now. But that's also going to depend on how long he sticks around and whether or not they give him more control. But that's besides the point. But last stage we saw the Outlaws fail to secure a stage playoff spot. That has been the case throughout the entire season so far for Houston. They're currently 16-14 going into stage 4. They have a pretty good map differential, though, considering what the record is at plus 13. And right now, they are currently sitting in 7th place overall. So this is a team that is very much still in that season playoff hunt overall. But really, no surprise, Kai Kai is in Houston now. And, you can only help but think okay, obviously he's already worked with a majority of this roster, so this just seems like a natural fit for Kai Kai.
Yeah, it's Houston Team USA. It was basically their name. And the team's going to perform better in my mind because of the lack of tracer play that we will end up seeing. So it's he's only gonna bring, well, for starters, worst kept secret in Overwatch League, Kai Kai on Houston Outlaws. Let's just get that out of the way.
Right.
Worst kept secret. But I think it's we talked about this last week. It's good all around. I think he'll help take the team to the next step. And I think with this addition, they're gonna be top 6. I wholeheartedly think they're gonna be top 6. And they're going to make the playoffs. And I think Kai Kai is going to have a major say in all that. So good on Houston, good on Kai Kai. It was a good match made in heaven with how he's worked with the team previously.
All right, well, moving on, guys. We have to talk about Dallas Fuel, and we got a couple of updates. So let's start with one of the, they're both pretty big news. I'll be honest. But let's talk about the player first, and that is Effect. So Dallas Fuel right now are going to be without Effect for the foreseeable future. The constant losing with the Fuel has kind of amplified some of the underlying issues with him lately. And, we've kind of seen these recent tweets. I'm not going to translate them just because it's not something I want to talk about. Obviously, it's a pretty big deal. But we did have Hastro come out and comment on the situation with Effect. And Hastro just celebrated his birthday, too, by the way, so happy birthday, Hastro. He says that we have been working with him to make sure he can get himself ready to come back and play again. I assure you that We take our players' mental health into deep consideration. Our staff has worked very hard this season to assist our players during the stress, and we have provided outside professional help to assist the team. In this specific case, we have allowed Effect to rest many of the games this season and will continue to let him rest until he is ready to compete again. I can't tell you when that will be, but I will say that we have been doing whatever we can to make sure he is happy. So, obviously Dallas has been dealing with a lot of things throughout the entire season so far in the Overwatch League. Whether it was suspensions, whether it was from not having a main tank, having people filling in as a main tank role and then not really working out like they did with Taimu, or people just not being in the right mental state or not feeling like they're like having that impact in the hit scan role. Like, it's just been kind of one thing after another. We also kind of saw it with Mickey, kind of being torn between protecting the front line and the back line, and he's not, there's only one Mickey, he can't be everywhere at once, so there's just been a lot of issues within the team. And there hasn't really been like a lot of bright spots lately. But, I am super happy to see that the organization has stepped up and are providing that, mental health, help for these players, because we've seen how strenuous, like, the Overwatch League has been. Obviously, like, the Overwatch League is very rigorous. We've seen how crazy the schedule is for the teams. We've seen some teams really push past, human limits at times when it comes to some controversial coaches in the past. But really, like, we need to see more teams really providing this help for their players, and I hope to see Effect back, whether that's going to be in Stage 4 or next season. I do think, like, he's probably going to stay with Dallas, but hopefully when he does come back, Dallas will be in just a healthier state overall than, when he had previously left.
Yeah, I mean, I've been Effect in the past, but he needs to not play. He needs to get better, and I think Dallas is working way. Effect is probably the most high profile, because this isn't the first case of where there's been personal issues and stress and depression and all of that has plagued Overwatch League players. It's just he's the most well known. And he's also with the Dallas Fuel, is the most criticized and ridiculed team in the Overwatch League. So it's adding up, and good on Dallas. Get him that help. Take as much time as you need, because Effect, you're a great player, but you are too hard on yourself. You need to get past that. You need to get better as a person first before you worry about playing in the Overwatch League. You need to get better. You need to get help. And I think it's great that the Dallas Fuel are helping him get it. He needs it. From the tweets and all the stuff that I've seen, he really does. I wish he would come back in Season 2, hopefully with the Fuel, because I think Mickey is a great influence. Mickey is probably the best influence you can have on any person in the Overwatch League. He's probably the teammate people want to play with the most. And he would be the perfect person, because he already was the perfect person to have with Effect. And having a positive person like Mickey on your team would be great for Effect when he does come back. So I hope Mickey comes back, plays for the Dallas Fuel in Season 2, after working out through all of this. Good on him. Get better. I look forward to you coming back and getting out of second to last place.
Yeah, they've kind of been entrenched in that spot for a while now. Just above Shanghai, who, as I mentioned, the two teams face tonight, so that one's really anyone's game. But, when Effect does come back, if it is for the Fuel, he's going to have a new head coach on that team. So Dallas Fuel went out, they signed a new head coach, and they had announced the signing of Arrow. Now, this contract does include a team option to extend for Season 2 of the Overwatch League, and Arrow served as a Fusion University's head coach, where under him, like they only dropped one game, with him at the helm. That team went on to become the North American Contenders champions this season, which was a huge deal. And this is someone that has coached FN or GFE, the Corn Dogs in the past. And, several of those players are currently on the Houston Outlaws roster. And he also coached Team Solo Mid. Now, granted, they didn't have, the longest tenure in competitive Overwatch, but he was also on Immortals. And when we look at the players that he has coached, 12 of his former players are competing in the Overwatch League right now. So when we look back at what Arrow has been able to accomplish as a head coach, he's coached teams that have won, as I mentioned, contenders this season. Fusion University also didn't drop a game in the regular season. Well, a set anyway. He beat Invitational Season 3. That was also with Fusion University. He won a championship at the NGE Winter Premiere. So, this is a coach that has a proven track record. And based on everything that we have heard from the players, in regards to contenders, he was easily the top coach, or top two, depending on where you place him overall. But, some things in the past that we had kind of talked about, maybe Dallas wasn't going to be the route that they went. So, really, my biggest question mark is in regards to this signing, how much control Arrow is actually going to have. That being said, I am extremely happy to see Arrow get a chance to show what he can do in the Overwatch League. And, Dallas Fuel is a team that came into the league with some, a lot of expectations. They had the Envious roster, who were pretty dominant for a while. Now, granted, they fell off, like some of the other powerhouse teams have across the regions. It's just not NA specific. It happened to NA, it happened to EU, and it's happened to Korea as well. And it doesn't take, a genius to figure out which teams I'm talking about. Dallas, Rogue, in many cases, Seoul this season, because we're still waiting on that playoff berth. But really, though, Arrow is an absolutely great sign-in, and I can't wait to see what he does with Dallas, because there's a lot that needs to be done right now for Dallas, but I feel like this is going to put them in a better spot in regards to a retooling phase for this team.
Yeah, all right, first I have to say, so he was a Fusion University. Did his jersey say F-U-C? No?
I don't know.
I get nothing.
No. Yeah,
I get nothing on that. All right.
Stonewall.
Stonewall. Dang it. I just got driven. But no, I think I mentioned this last week that he would be perfect to come in stage 4 to evaluate the team, and that's exactly what they're doing, because with the option to pick up for season 2, they're going to bring him in so he can evaluate the team, and then they can evaluate him and see how he works with the team. So he's basically on a short-term basis with the high likelihood, unless because if they win 2 matches, I think it's a success for Arrow. You can't expect them to win more than they have without effect and with everything they've gone through. So if they win 2, then overall success for Arrow, and he'll be brought back for season 2. It's really the only reason he's not is if they go winless.
Yeah, to that note though, I just want to add real quick. Based off of what we have seen, now I know we're not seeing Dive 100% of the time, at least what we've seen from the first series. But if we see prominent Deathball meta, Dallas Fuel is going to be in a better position to succeed in stage 4.
Yes, they will. I will agree with that, especially if they start trusting. I actually think that they need to start playing Coco more, and then if you get Taimu in Happy Taimu phase, like Happy Taimu Widowmaker phase, they could pull off some upsets. But we've been saying that for 3 stages now with them. Great pickup. It's like that. How do I put this? So a few years ago, the Boston Celtics in basketball were horrible. They were god awful. They went out and hired the young, hot college coach in Brad Stevens. The guy who was the up and comer, was great thinker, great all that. And now look at the Celtics. They're 2-0 up on the Cavaliers going into the finals.
LeBron can't do everything.
Yeah. So like that's who they hired. Dallas hired the Brad Stevens of the contenders, the hot new coach that everyone wants, and Dallas got him. They just have to utilize him correctly, and expect a lot of big changes with the Dallas Fuel. After Arrow, I don't think he's going to have complete control. I don't think any team should give complete control to their coach. I think it should be a joint effort, but I think he will have a lot of say in especially the players that he wants on the team, and especially the players that he wants starting for him. And I don't think the people that are on the team right now are the people he wants starting. But he's gonna come in, give them all a shot. He's gonna give them honest coaching, honest feedback, and that's what the Dallas Fuel needed.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So, there's been a lot of discussion lately in regards to Stage 4, primarily regarding what the hell patch are we playing on, because this wasn't really brought up until... Was it today or was it yesterday that Nate Nanzer sent out this tweet?
I think it was yesterday.
It was yesterday?
So plenty of time. I mean, they had 24 hours.
24 hours to prepare. Well, technically they had more, because, for one, the new Hanzo, not in. But basically, guys, we got confirmation that Stage 4 is going to be played on 1.22, and not 1.23. So... I'll go into, what is and what is not included when it comes to, some of the recent balance changes, but, the main, deciding factor was that in the current patch that is on live, that is 1.23, they were having a bug that exists on escort maps where if there was a pause or a disconnect, they couldn't accurately resume play. So... obviously, that would be not good. I think that would be worse than anything that could possibly happen in regards to an actual game. Because, for one, what do you do at that point? Do you just completely restart the game? There's no good way to really deal with that. So, the developers were looking to, fix that bug in time for the Overwatch League players to prepare. But they were unable to do so, and without having that degree of certainty that, they require for the league, they opted to go back to 1.22. So, that being said, Stage 4, 1.22. Really, no Hanzo rework. That's, the big thing. So, let's talk about what is and is not in this current patch. So, in Stage 4, we have Brigitte, the new hero. This does not include the cone angle nerf of her shield bash, so it is still at 90, not at 60, they changed, because that came after 1.22. This includes the Reaper buff, that is the one that lets him reload his shotguns after using Death Blossom. He gets faster forms, Wraith form speed, over 25%. I think that's up to 50% overall. It went from 25 to 50.
Yep.
And he can also cancel Wraith form. The Mei buff is in this patch. That is the one that allowed you to pierce through enemies with Endothermic Blaster. The D.Va nerf is in. That was the one with Micro Missile, where the explosive damage was reduced from 6 to 4. Zenyatta's secondary fire rate of fire was reduced by 15%. And then we also got the real version of Blizzard World, with a second point change, which we actually got to see earlier today, and it was so much better. It was so good.
Nice.
So, what's not in Stage 4? Well, one, we don't have the Tracer Pulse Bomb nerf. We don't have the Junkrat Riptire changes, which was mostly, movement, but very, very little. Same with the
speed of the ultimate,
right.
And then the
projectile size change that they did.
Yeah.
obviously the big thing is no Hanzo 2.0. That is ridiculous right now. We're not getting the Genji deflect nerf in regards to the hitbox. And then same with the Lucio changes to like his wall ride and his alternate fire not consuming ammo. So that's basically not what we're not going to be seeing. So obviously, Brigitte is in. We've already seen a little bit of play. Obviously, I did not see the entirety of the first series. I do know that both sides did play her in the first series on Blizzard World. But it seems like we're going to have a healthy mix of, Death Ball as well as Dive. So we'll see a little bit of Brigitte, with the Zarya and the Reinhardt, and the Junkrat in most cases for the DPS. Map dependent, because, we do see a lot of people switch to Widowmaker for the second point on Blizzard World, but not having the Hanzo rework in, and, just overall, like, I've seen a lot of outroar from the community in regards to not being on the live server. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, are you upset by the fact that you can't immediately adapt something that you're seeing in the Overwatch League to your ladder play? Now, granted, like, no, none of us are Overwatch League level. I mean, obviously we can't directly copy what we're seeing them doing and then implementing it into our games, but, like, do you feel like you have less of a reason to watch just due to the fact that we are not on the current Overwatch patch within the Overwatch League?
Well, see, so here's the thing. Like, the perfect example, like, all right, I'll say this flat out. I was not for the most recent patch to be in the Overwatch League for the exact reason that we saw a day or two ago. The announced nerfs to Hanzo. They did not have enough time. Like, it was such a drastic change to Hanzo that they didn't have enough time to get testing in-game, see how it truly affects for a little while. And then they saw that, and then they realized they needed to nerf him a little. But if they put him into the, like, if they would put the Overwatch League, the new patch into the Overwatch League now, they would have had an overpowered Hanzo. So you would be getting a Hanzo that is not the Hanzo that you play. So either way, you would actually be getting a different Hanzo than you're playing in the game. Now, one is more drastic than the other, yes. But either way, you're gonna get a character that is not the one that you're playing in game. So it's a matter of, do you want to have the more overpowered, like the Mercy with in stage 1 with Mercy? I don't think anybody really enjoyed seeing like the auto lock Mercy every match, no matter what, had to have. I don't think people liked that much, and that's why everyone was so happy to get to stage 2 without the Mercy meta. If Hanzo comes in without this nerf, you would see the Hanzo automatically picked as a DPS every time, and then you would know that they're overpowered because they got nerfed shortly after that. And that wouldn't be in the Overwatch League. So you would have a pre-nerf Hanzo in there, just like you had the pre-nerf Mercy in there. And it wouldn't be beneficial. Now they can go ahead and switch it up mid stage, which I wouldn't be completely against, but then you start running into, okay, well, the team that was really powerful with Hanzo beforehand then falls off, and then it's unfair, so on and so forth. So I get that. But when you have pre and post, like you have complete change, pre-nerf, post-nerf Hanzo, it's one of 3 Hanzos are you picking to put into the Overwatch League. So it's just, it's damned if they do, damned if they don't. And I think they chose the one that was probably the safest pick, without too, like, there's going to be uproar, but after week 1, people won't really care. They won't, like, people won't be thinking, because they won't be seeing it. So, like, people won't, it's not on their minds. they're upset initially and so on and so forth. But if they would put new Hanzo in there, people would be seeing it every week and seeing how, hey, that Hanzo is taking out Tracer every single time with one shot with the arrow. Why can't I do that? Well, that's because it's pre-nerf Hanzo. So I think there was a smart move on Blizzard's parts. I know I'm in the minority, and that's generally where I'm at always.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing right now is, with every stage we've seen the approach of, okay, we're not going to patch in the middle of the stage. And I think the worst thing that Blizzard could do right now is to be like, okay, we're going into the stage for playoffs. Let's flip it over to 1.23. No, we need a consistent level of play in regards to the patch across the entirety of the stage. And I don't think they've outright said that that part of it is going to include the playoffs, so who knows? But I feel like if you start with it in the stage, you have to finish with it included in the stage playoffs. So hopefully the Hanzo rework stays out. You need to have that level of play because you don't want to be in a situation like River Hippo says, where we go into the playoffs and then it just becomes the Hanzo finals. Who has a better Hanzo? Because that character would have had no impact outside of the playoffs. So we just need that level playing field. Now that being said, a lot of people have just been I feel like a lot of people have just kind of made up their mind in regards to where they stand in regards to this side of the debate, whether or not they want 1.22 or 1.23. Because, I was in the High Noon Discord earlier, and, I'm not going to mention the person's name, but, we were kind of going back and forth, and, he was pro 1.23. I was not. I'm not saying I was overly, negative about playing on it, but, they did have some sound reason. Obviously, a major bug like this can hurt the integrity of the game. So how I looked at it was, okay, so obviously Brigitte is going to be here one way or another. So would I rather have one hero that can make some changes to the meta, or would I want two heroes that could be perceived as overpowered at the same time in the meta? And I'm like, I would rather have option one than the latter. But at the end of the day, we need to be on a client that is not going to have snafus, and if there is a major bug like the one that they talked about, we can absolutely not play on that patch. So I hope we don't see the Hanzo rework until... I don't know
All-Star Weekend?
All-Star Weekend, maybe? I don't know. It all depends on when they make up their mind when it comes to the patching for the Overwatch League. If the teams have a couple of weeks or a week or two, at most, to prepare for let's say season playoffs, then yeah, sure. But it can't just be, okay, we're gonna announce it the day before, and then, oh, we're playing with the new Hanzo. It just cannot be like that. So, for everyone that's been kind of on the fence about, the overall stage patch, just tune into some of the games and see the different looks that teams are given, and I think people will be pleasantly surprised. We're not seeing straight dive every game, and I feel like that was one of the bigger issues that people had overall.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. It's one of those things where, like I said, and you alluded to it, is in a week or so, people are going to forget about it. And the only way they won't forget about it is if come the playoffs or the grand finals, they're like, hey, we're going with the new Hanzo patch. Then people are going to be like, whoa. Let's rein it back here a little. But like you said, the bug is probably a bigger issue than a lot of people probably realizing. So yeah, it's great. I like it. I like just the matches I've seen tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different game.
Right.
It really is. You're seeing a lot of the same characters, like heroes played, but you're seeing different comps played with said heroes. So I mean, you're still seeing some Tracers, you're still seeing Winston, D.Va, so on and so forth, but you're seeing different characters or heroes mixed in with it, and that's what I like to see. And you're not seeing. I didn't see really a Genji at all when I watched the first match, and I may be mistaken, and I probably am because Genji's a pretty popular hero, but I didn't see a Genji for the 4 maps. And I like that because Genji was fairly prevalent in the last few stages, the last 3 stages. And having no Genji, yay, it's something new.
Absolutely, and just to reiterate, I do think that by the time the season playoffs roll around, they will have this bug fixed. So I'm expecting that we will see Hanzo 2.0 in the season playoffs. Because if we see 1.22 throughout the entirety of the season, that would run into basically the end of July, like River Hippo stated. But moving on, guys, normally we do like a preview for the week, but we kind of already covered all of the games on Overwatch League Network, so we're going to mix it up a little bit. Let's talk about a few of the teams right now in regards to expectations in Stage 4. So, I don't know how many teams you picked out. I picked out 3 that were all kind of middle of the pack, I would say, last stage. So, why don't you take the lead on this one first? Like, go over one of the teams that you want to talk about, and then you can revert back to me, and then we'll just go over these real quick before we
All right.
wrap up the show.
I think the one that the one I chose, one of the is Houston.
Yes.
Houston is probably the team out of all of them that I think can make the biggest jump, and that is because of the lack of Tracer that I predict we will see. Like everyone's harassed them for a couple stages now about not really having a Tracer, but it's less about not having the Tracer and more about having Junkrat in. And when you have Junkrat in the meta and you have a guy on your team named Junkrat, you're gonna do well with it. I mean, when your name is after a character, you're gonna do pretty okay with it. So
unless you're facing London, and then the rest of your team does great.
True, but same can be said about Seoul Dynasty. All right, but Houston, I think is going to be the team that's really going to step up. For this stage alone, I predict that they will be top 3. I think they'll make the stage playoffs, and they'll also do all that fun stuff. It's just they showed flashes of brilliance in stage 3, but they were held back by their hero and who they were playing. And in this stage, I think they can really get out to an early jump if they play week 1. So like in week 1, you have them like they're playing Boston Uprising and they're playing London Spitfire. If they can pull up 2-0 this week,
it's a tall order.
I'm not saying they're going to, but if they can pull up 2-0 this week, they're golden. Because they'll be top 3 at the end of the stage, and I think they could. I think London is kind of wishy-washy at this point. Not fully wishy-washy, but like you never know what you're gonna get. And Boston, I'm still not on the Boston train, and they went undefeated, sort of undefeated. But I mean,
outside of the Patriots stint that they did, yeah.
Yes, yeah, they pulled the Patriots. So Houston is going to be my team to really watch, to really jump up. What's one of the teams that you chose, Totem?
Well, I also did pick Houston as one of my 3, and last stage they did go 4-6. I think in my high noon power rankings for like playoff predictions, I think I had them at number 4. So I had them making the stage playoffs for the first time this season, and I feel like right now, this is always a team that's always been kind of on the bubble. Eventually they're going to be able to break through, and I feel like in this current meta where we're not always going to see straight dive, that is only going to help the Houston Outlaws. Now, that this is also going to be dependent on, okay, how much Tracer play are we going to see? How is their Brigitte going to be? Because from what we have seen so far, at least, the Brigitte has been being taken up by the D.Va players. At least in the first series. I don't know if that's still the same case in the series that's going on right now between the Valiant and the Dynasty. But it's not a support player playing Brigitte. It is one of the tanks, which it kind of makes sense, but just because she is a frontline presence on the team. But I feel like if the Outlaws aren't having to rely on, Jake on a Tracer every map or Lynxer, obviously going to be able to have a bigger impact. And I know I kind of said the same thing last stage, and we didn't quite see the turnaround that we kind of expected. But I feel like now that they have, that additional coach in with Kai on the team, he could take more one-on-one time with their players. And I feel like that's really going to be a deciding factor for the Outlaws. So I think they go from like 4-6 from stage 3. I think I have them at like 6-4, but they'll get that 4th slot overall. But, definitely a team that I feel like is like just on the verge of getting that season playoff spot. Whether or not they get it, I don't know. But it's going to be down to the wire, I feel like, for Houston. So if they can put in like a 7-3 stage for stage 4, I think they're golden. I think that will definitely put them in the top 6 for the end of season playoffs. But in regards to teams that I picked, let's start with Philadelphia. So the Fusion last stage were, again, one of those middle of the pack teams. They finished at 5-5, and it's kind of an interesting time in Philadelphia because we are entering more of a Reinhardt-friendly meta. And yes, I know, Fraggy kind of already was running Reinhardt, but this is his time. Like, this is the time for Fraggy to really be kind of like that cornerstone for Philadelphia. And then on top of that, something that not a lot of people are remembering is the fact that, they do have another player on the roster that is just coming off of a suspension from the past 30 games, and that is Sado, who is one of their other tanks. So I'm expecting to see him in play. I'm curious to see how that is going to work out. But this has been a team that throughout the entirety of the season has been extremely scrappy. And I feel like when it comes down to these more prolonged fights, I think that is going to put their DPS in a better position to come out on top compared to what it's been in the past. Because lately it's just been like, okay, a lot of these fights aren't really as prolonged, so it's like short and to the point, but I think their execution is going to be a lot cleaner in this more tank favorite meta. So they're definitely a team that I feel like is... I'm not going to say like they're going to be like a major improvement, but I think that Sado being on the team now and getting some more time on the front line is going to pay dividends for them overall. Whether or not they make the playoffs in terms of the stage, I think I have them 5th overall, so I think they're going to miss it in regard to the stage, but definitely a team that is going to maybe not take as many games to a map 5, so I expect to see a better map differential for Philadelphia in this stage.
Okay. I mean, I agree with you. Philadelphia is one of the true wild cards, especially with Sado coming back. You just don't know how they're going to perform with him around. It's just they have the skill. It's whether their aggressiveness pays off for them
or bites them in the ass.
Yeah, like there's no middle ground with Philadelphia. It's their aggressiveness is going to work out well for them, or it's going to go horrible for them. Mm-hmm. So that was a good pick. I actually did not have the 3 I wanted to talk about, so we didn't have the same one for once. My other team is actually your team, the Seoul Dynasty.
Interesting, because it's kind of my third team.
Dang it. Okay, so I picked Seoul Dynasty because I think they're going to excel. I think this is going to be their stage.
Okay, I was worried because I was like, okay, is he going to try to ruffle my feathers?
No. I actually think this is, I do not think they're as good as New York. Right. I don't think any team is as good as New York.
I would absolutely 100% agree with that.
I do think the number 2 team.
Okay.
I love what I saw out of the aggressiveness and the play style of Ryu Jaekong when I saw him in the end of last stage. I love and by putting Ryu Jaekong in, and having Fleta in there more, because Fleta is key. I think Fleta is key to have in your lineup at all times. And I think that's going to be the key for them is just keep him in there. He's going to be good no matter what map you're on. It's not like he has a bad map. There may be certain maps a specific player might be better with a specific character on, like with Junkrat. He may not be the best Junkrat on his team, but he's a darn good Junkrat. And he's just good for the team, like if there ever needs to be a switch. Because one thing I've noticed with this stage so far, from the very few maps I've seen, is there's very different comps being run from team to team, from map to map. So there's going to be more switching, and that's where you want Fleta in there for. So as long as they keep him in there, and they keep, I really hope they keep Roger Kong in there, whether it's on Winston or Reinhardt or Brigitte, whatever. Whatever he's on, like one of those three, I think he needs to be on. I think they're going to succeed, and I think they're going to go over that hurdle. Now, the one thing I did not look, and you might know this, who do they have buys against this stage? Do you know offhand?
I don't know offhand, to be honest.
Basically, it's whoever doesn't play New York is getting like a free pass almost. So, and I want to say I remember seeing something along the lines of Seoul not having to play them. Never mind. They play them next week. I was way off.
Womp womp womp.
I was way off. But I mean, this is another match team that by week 2, you're gonna know their fate. Because I mean, this week, they're playing the Valiant and San Francisco Shock, which are 2 sneaky teams. But then next week they play London and New York. And if they can survive week 2 1-1, I think they're in really good shape to be the number 2 team.
Right.
So, yep, Seoul is my number 2 team. I think they're on the rise. I think they're going to do good, and I think they're going to break their playoff drought.
All right. I'm just looking real quick. They face London too next week. Oh man. So looking at next week, so just so you guys are aware, the Dynasty are facing New York and London.
Yep.
Oof.
Yeah, rough week. 1-1.
But week 3, Shanghai and Florida. It's a rebound week.
If they come out they're projected to go 2-0 this week against the Valiant and Shock. If they actually go 2-0 this week and then just go 1-1 next week, I think they have pretty smooth sailing because, like you said, Florida and Shanghai the week after. And then the week after that, they have Boston and the Fusion. Not super easy, but not super difficult. So.
Yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, Seoul has to have a better record than the Valiant, because they have a 1-game lead currently. Now, that could change tonight, in the current game, which is going on right now, so be careful of spoilers in chat, please.
No spoilers for Toto.
Because obviously, we're kind of doing a podcast, and they're playing right now. As it is, pretty much every week, I get the shaft when it comes to Dynasty playing during record times, but that happens when we have 2 shows that record during the Overwatch League. But for me, obviously, my expectations for Seoul are going to be better, and part of it is based on the fact that Ryu Jae-han is going to be on that tank lineup. Now, is that going to be something that they stick with throughout the entirety of the stage? I think so. I feel like Ryu Jae-han on that main tank spot, opening up the space for Fleta to really pop off, is going to be a huge deal for Seoul. And, Fleta, while he kind of disappeared in Stage 2 and to an extent Stage 3, I feel like this stage is really going to be an MVP-like stage for him. And, we kind of got to look at, okay, well, when we run Reinhardt and Zarya, Zunba back on Zarya is going to be a huge deal for Seoul as well. So I feel like all in all, Like, Seoul's tank line is going to be better this stage. Miro, I don't know if you'll see a ton of play if Ryu is going to be on that main tank role. But I expect better things from them. I think they do make the stage playoffs. I have them third overall. Basically, I have it New York, Boston as the top two. And then I have Seoul and Houston. And I know you kind of shrug at Boston being included in this, so let me briefly go over Boston real quick, even though they're not on my my three teams to talk about. So, we know that there is a mixture of death ball and dive compositions being ran, at least early impressions in stage 4. And they do kind of have 5 supports on their team, so really, if they put a support on the Brigitte role, it's fine. If they put the default player on it, Note's been pretty good with just good in that role overall. One of the most underrated off tanks in the league in itself. They have Kalios, who is extremely underrated. We haven't really got to see a lot from him, but it seems like everyone is just forgetting about him. So I feel like he's just going to come in and he's just going to surprise the hell out of a lot of people. But yeah, Smell did get corrected by Susie Kim when it came to the pronunciation of Brigitte. And if you've been watching the Overwatch League tonight, you've heard them pronounce it the same way throughout the entirety of the broadcast. And I know, like, Zoe, to an extent, because of her accent, it sounds a little bit different, but it is absolutely Brigitte. And it's probably not going to get corrected in comms, but it is what it is. But I feel like Boston, knowing that they have the pieces to work into that Rein Zarya, it's going to be like a non-issue for them. And if we're sticking to dive, well, they're the best dive team in the league, bar none. So I think they're going to be fine. I think people saying like, oh, Brigitte's in, it's the death of dive, are just overreacting. So I feel like at the end of this stage, I think I have them pegged at 7-3. In that second spot. I think New York probably going to finish 9-1. I mean, that's kind of like the safe bet because that's kind of what they've put up every stage. I don't think New York is going to be able to 10-0, but they will more than likely be in the stage finals yet again overall. But that's it for my 3 teams, and I know Boston wasn't one of them, but I felt like, you and I are on different sides of the fence when it comes to that team in particular.
Yeah, we are on different sides of the fence, and I'm gonna eat my words on the Boston thing. I know I am. It's just I don't know what it is about them. I just don't have faith in them, and I still don't have faith in them. But they are not my third team. My third team is the Dallas Fuel. I think the Dallas Fuel are gonna do well. I know the dumpster fire, and when I say they're gonna do well, I think they're gonna win 4 matches, which would be above and beyond expectations. I think with Arrow coming in and being their coach, and the way the meta is kind of shaping out to be, I think the Dallas Fuel have a chance to get 4 wins and finish in probably 8th place. 4 wins will probably get them in 8th, 9th place in this stage, which would be a massive win for Dallas and Dallas's fans. So that's kind of my long shot. I feel way more confident about the Houston Outlaws and the Seoul Dynasty predictions than the Dallas dumpster fire, but Dallas could surprise people, and I think they will surprise people. That one's for you, Bob.
I'm not even going to comment on it outside of what I put in chat. But anyways, guys, we're nearing the finish line for this episode as we are nearing that 2-hour mark as per usual. So let's go ahead and do a couple of shout-outs. So Adonar, every single week, I go to you first, and you have nothing for me, so I'm hoping this will be the one time that you have something, because if not, I have stuff.
Okay, so I have some. I know. Shocking. I'm gonna give a shout out to a guy that, well, for starters, a non Overwatch person that everyone knows. I want to give a shout out to my boy Zhao. He is probably the most positive person I've ever played Overwatch with. If you ever play with me and you're playing with him, he is annoyingly positive thinking to the point where sometimes I want to punch him, but he keeps everyone in a positive mood. And then the other one I want to give out, and this is from a few weeks back, I want to give a shout out to Bob, Blazing Bob. He actually gave me a shout out on his show about going to the Florida Mayhem meetup and all that stuff. And he's like, "Are you in Florida? Do you live in Florida?" I'm like, "Nope, Milwaukee. Close though, you know." And, but I appreciate you thinking of me, when talking about the Florida Mayhem and all the misery that we can talk about with our two teams being just god awful outside of certain players. So those are my two shout outs for this week. So I actually had shout outs. So
Wow.
Who are some of yours?
Well, I have a big one to shout out, and that is Con Before the Storm, guys. This is going to be something I'm probably going to be shilling every single week, and there is a good reason for that, just because this is huge for just the gaming community. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Con Before the Storm, this is a BlizzCon party. It's put on by the community for the community, and this is on Thursday, November 1st, and this party is free for, all the con goers or just people in the general area in Anaheim, and this will be their 6th year hosting the event. Last year we saw like 6,000 people at the event, which is pretty good. And, right now, they are currently doing their Kickstarter. They are looking at reaching their stretch goals, and there's one in particular that is very important, and that is the one that's at $24,500, because that is one where we get that fully equipped room on the 4th floor of the Hilton for the World of Podcast panels. Now, this is extremely important just because of the content that comes out of those panels, because that is something that benefits all podcast listeners, because that content is available for everyone, free to download on various, podcast feeds. So it's just not for people that are attending the party. So last year, I was honored to take part on the Overwatch panel at World of Podcasts, alongside some very good friends of mine. Some names that you might know, Slambo was there, my co-host on Overwatch League Network, when he shows up.
Is he only going to show up for half of Con Before the Storm?
Or none at all. I mean, it's one of the two. DJ Tyrant, who was on the Payload podcast back when that was still going. Blazing Bob was there, right next to me, on Watchpoint Radio. I'll recap, prepare to attack. We had Shanman as our moderator from the overview. Yeah, no one's heard of Slambo or seen him. He's in the audio abyss. That's why we have a meme.
Have you ever seen those holograms of Tupac and Michael Jackson? That's really how we got Slambo to be on the show. He's only really been on one show, and we're just using a hologram of him for all the rest.
Yeah. And, of course, we had iPlay on there as well from Onyx Lab, and I'll recap. But, guys, that is, the big thing. We need to hit that stretch goal. There's a lot of great content coming out of World of Podcasts. And, last year they had 50 podcasts participating in World of Podcasts. So if you guys, can donate to the cause for the Kickstarter, we would all greatly appreciate that. I know we got some streaming stuff coming up soon in regards to fundraisers and stuff like that for Con Before the Storm. So more details on that to come. But if you're going to BlizzCon, and even if you're not going to BlizzCon, there is something for you. Obviously, there's a party at BlizzCon, and if you're not going, World of Podcast stuff is always great, because they do panels for, podcasting. They have stuff for Overwatch, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Warcraft. I mean, there is stuff for everyone, so donate if you can. It would be a great help and a great cause. And I'll have the Kickstarter link in our show notes. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and close out the show. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best ways to show some support, I can't talk since it's 2 hours in, the best way to show support is to give us a review over on iTunes, preferably a positive one. But, we do appreciate any sort of feedback or constructive criticism when it comes to feedback. So, that will offer us some insight on how we can make for a better listening experience for you. We do have a game night coming up that is actually this weekend. That is on Saturday, May 19th. So join us, guys, at 7 p.m. Pacific time for another night of friendly community competitive games. This word thing, mouth words are hard.
Left to right, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Letters put together words.
All those things. We're not going to talk about numbers either, because it's too much at this point. But our games, guys, will be streamed live over on our Twitch channel, which hopefully you're here right now at twitch.tv/OWLN show. And if you're not, hopefully you'll go back to that for the game night. But I will be streaming that on our Twitch channel. And just as a reminder, we do have Overwatch Recall. This is our Overwatch podcast directory. You can find that on our website at owlnshow.com/OWRecall. So the directory in itself, I update weekly. And we also do episode listings release every single Sunday. So you can find all the latest Overwatch podcasts on there. And yeah, there's just a ton of stuff that's being released weekly for Overwatch. So that is definitely worth checking out. But Adonar, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can get a hold of us at Heroes Never Die?
All right. Well, you can reach us at through email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us on the Twitter at hndoverwatch. For you can kind of catch everything from our stream to all the streams that go on in the show. And then you can see us on Twitch, which you should be watching right now at twitch.tv/OWLN show. So we're a Twitch affiliate. You can support the show by subscribing to our Twitch channel and unlock our network emoticon. So thanks again to everyone who's been watching our shows live and interacting in the chat. If you'd like to catch us live, we do broadcast 3 nights a week just for our shows. That's not individual streaming. So on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, you have the Overwatch League Network. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific, you have us, Heroes Never Died, now that we switched over to Wednesdays. On Thursdays, now you will have the back cap at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then host streams will be held on Fridays and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, whether it's Spider, Totem, whoever. You can chat with us over on our Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. And then we are also on YouTube, where you can find us at the Overwatch League Network. We're getting close to the custom URL, so if you could help out by subscribing, greatly appreciate it. And that's where all our podcast episodes, top plays, and other videos can be found there. You can find me personally on Twitter at @AdonarOverwatch. Totem, where can they find you over there?
Well, I am over on the Twitter sphere. That is at Little Bluebird. Mostly creating memes and poking fun at my co-hosts, especially Slambo. If you've not been on my Twitter feed, you are missing some grade A memes. And it's actually become a part of our overlay on Overwatch League Network, and that's going to stay there. That's like a permanent thing that is going to be on our overlay from now on, because it is that important. Because Slambo needs that reminder that I obviously notice when he's not here, and I miss him dearly. So hopefully the audio abyss doesn't claim him for another week, otherwise...
So it's not the C9, is it the S9? The S9?
We don't technically have a name for it. It's more of whether or not the audio abyss has claimed him. We'll come up with a better name. But, obviously I'm on Twitter at TimelyDrunkCTR. I do have a Twitch, but if I'm streaming, it's over on this channel. And when it comes to the host streams, guys, the way it's going to work is, like, on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. That will usually be where Spider will be live on our channel. And then that Saturday block at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time will be when I'm on the channel. So, if you're able to make one or both, fantastic. But, any sort of help with subs or, just viewing and chatting with us would be greatly appreciated. But for now, that is going to do it for us here tonight on episode 111 of Heroes Never Die. And with that, guys, we will see you back next week. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Heroes Never Die. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HNDOverwatch and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show.